from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
You recycle, right?
Yep, it's confusing. It's hard for all of us to recycle properly when it's this confusing. Yet recycling is the #1 thing we can do for the environment and the economy if we do it properly. Now there's a solution, and it's simple.
The standardized labels help people recycle more, and they help people recycle right. Let's recycle across America, and let's recycle right.
To be part of the standardized label solution, visit letsrecycleright.org.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, recycling in Nebraska. We have two guests joining us via Zoom today. Heather Creven will join us a little bit later. Heather is the Executive Director of the Nebraska Recycling Council. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome Danielle Easdale. Danielle is the Director of Sales and Marketing for First Star Fiber. Thank you so much for being with us and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Danielle, I want to start with the question, what does recycling actually mean?
Well, very simply, recycling is taking a product that is a waste product, essentially, and using it and converting it or processing it into something completely new. So it could be something as simple as like for like, converting your pop can, smelting it down and turning it into a new pop can. Or it could be something a little bit more complex, turning it into a completely different product, like your PET water bottle could become the insulation in your winter puffer jacket. So basically taking a wasted product and turning it into something new.
Okay, briefly talk about some of the more significant milestones in this movement.
So two that probably spring to mind the most was the move to commingled recycling, which enabled everybody to put their recycling, instead of separating each individual item out, to put them all in the same bin. Another one that I can think of is the move to curbside recycling, where recycling was picked up from the curbside of your house. Both of these were designed to make recycling easier for people so that they could participate and get greater levels of recycling, which is fantastic. Both of them have caused challenges somewhat in the way that recycling is processed and handled, but those are two of the biggest things that spring to mind.
Okay, and how did you become involved in recycling, Danielle?
I grew up on the coastline of Australia, so I was always very interested in the environment and sustainability, and so I pursued a career in sustainability. And working in this field, I discovered that I had a real passion for waste and recycling, primarily because it's something that has an immediate demonstrable impact, and it's something that everybody can do themselves to really benefit the environment.
Okay, briefly tell us about where you work, First Star Fiber.
Okay, so First Star Fiber is actually Nebraska's largest materials recovery facility. We get the recyclables and we sort them out and process them into their individual streams. We were the first of our kind here in Nebraska, and one of the things I really love about working for First Star is how much they value helping businesses and communities across the Midwest really improve their waste management and recycling practices.
Talk a little bit, that's interesting, Danielle, about some examples. I mean, give some examples of, folks with whom you work, things that you have done to really move this forward.
Okay, sure. So we do a lot of processing for large municipalities such as Lincoln and Omaha, but we also like to go out and work with a lot of the smaller rural communities. So as far west as Ogallala, Valentine, areas like that, and really work with those communities to see how they can most effectively and efficiently offer those recycling services to their residents and businesses.
Okay, and And of course, one of the key elements about recycling are the rules to recycling, right?
Yeah.
We have a graphic that we want to put up for our viewers. And as we're looking at that, Danielle, tell us what we're seeing other than a green check mark and 2 red X's.
Yeah, so like your video that you showed earlier, recycling can be a little confusing sometimes, primarily because it's done different in a lot of different areas. But it really does break down to 3 simple rules. First one being know what to throw, know what to put in your bin. So check with your local municipality what materials you can recycle. And what shouldn't go in your bin, because things that shouldn't go in your bin, they can cause problems for the recycling facilities that have to process them. So don't do things like put your recyclables in bags, because then the machines can't sort it out. And keep your recycling clean and dry so that you don't contaminate the recyclables that you are trying to send to us.
Okay, and specifically, what can be recycled? We're going to put up another graphic and walk us through what we're actually talking about here.
Okay, so again, it's different in every area, so always check with your municipality. But the main items that are recyclable in most areas, of course, your paper, so magazines, newspapers, junk mail, envelopes, things like that are all very recyclable. Cardboard boxes and cereal boxes, things like that. Always make sure you flatten your boxes when you put them into the recycling. It helps the sorting process, and it helps you be able to fit more in the bin. Plastic containers, primarily your bottles, milk jugs, laundry detergent jugs, generally plastic containers numbers 1, 2, 5s are very highly recyclable. Steel cans and aluminum cans, so your pop cans and your soup and tomato paste cans and things like that.
Okay, that sounds simple enough. People seem pretty psyched about recycling, but something happens between the house and the curb, right? I think so many folks are well intended, but this recycling thing kind of falls through the cracks a little bit. What are you finding, when you're collecting that either we're doing well or we could have done better? Help us out a little bit there.
So everybody wants to recycle. Everybody knows recycling is a good thing, and they want to keep as much as they possibly can out of the landfill. So what ends up happening sometimes is people come across items where they're not sure whether it can be recycled or not. So they put it in their bin anyway, in the hope that once it gets to us, that we'll be able to figure out what to do with it. And there's a term for that. We call it wish cycling. And unfortunately, it makes it very hard for us at the recycling center to deal with when we have all these extra materials coming in that actually contaminate the good recyclables. And it actually becomes quite costly and quite time consuming for us to sort through trying to pull out things that shouldn't be in the recycling at all.
So is the answer, Danielle, kind of that when in doubt, leave it out, and then maybe inquire to somebody, call somebody like you, just to make sure, because obviously if we're going to throw it away once, we're probably going to throw it away again. It's probably something that we like to eat or something we like to drink. So is that the answer then from where you're sitting?
Yes, definitely. So know before you throw, and if you're in doubt, leave it out. That's the best thing to do. There's lots of resources out there for people to check with. You can check with people like myself, with your local municipality, people like the Nebraska Recycling Council. There are lots of sources of information to find out what can be recycled in your area and what can't.
Okay, Danielle, I would imagine this next question is one of your favorites, and that is, what are the benefits of recycling, especially to Nebraska?
Oh my goodness, so many. I mean, not only does it help our Nebraskan environment, keep it beautiful, save our natural resources and everything like that, but also it creates a lot of jobs and benefits to our economy. So here at First Star Fiber alone, we employ over 120 people. And the Institute of Scrap Recyclers did a study back in 2019 that showed, let me get this figure right, that in Nebraska alone, the recycling industry generated an economic impact of over $603 million. Which is huge. And there's over 3,000 jobs in the state of Nebraska that are affected by recycling.
Okay. I want you to, in the minutes we have remaining, we've got a couple left, really drive this home. Is there a story that you can think of that would maybe serve as an incent or get people maybe over, over that little hill of, I can do this? Give us some sort of inspiring story.
Okay. Two spring to mind. One of the things I love about recycling is the community, the sense of community that comes with it. And two things spring to mind. There's a recycling center in Blair, Nebraska, Washington County Recycling Association. They are solely run by volunteers. They have service organizations and retired people working alongside teens to make sure that their community has those recycling facilities, and it's just so great to see everybody working together like that. But also going back to Western Nebraska, where I was talking earlier, where they have challenges where it's a little harder, they're further away from end markets and recycling processes. So there's 36 different communities in Western Nebraska that have actually banded together to create a hub and spoke system so that they can gather their materials together and make it more efficient to be able to recycle and keep those facilities out in Western Nebraska and the ability to recycle.
Very good. Okay, so final thoughts on this topic. Something that maybe I didn't ask you that I should have, Danielle, that you would like to share with our viewers.
You know, recycling, it really isn't as confusing as it seems. You know, and it's something that everybody can do that's really easy, that does make it, you know, a tangible difference, both to our environment, to our local community, and really to our world in general.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to thank Danielle Easdale for joining us. Heather Creven's going to be with us in just a few minutes. We're talking about recycling in Nebraska. Folks wanting more information on this topic can go to recycleacrossamerica.org, wm.com, or firststarrecycling.com. As promised, Heather Creven is here now. Heather is the Executive Director of the Nebraska Recycling Council. Welcome and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kathy.
You bet. Hey, I understand you know Danielle pretty well. She serves on your board of directors. If you wouldn't mind by starting, tell us a little bit about the Nebraska Recycling Council.
Yeah, Nebraska Recycling Council is a statewide member-based nonprofit organization headquartered in Lincoln, Nebraska. Our mission is to maximize the economic and environmental benefits of resource recovery in Nebraska. We have a vision where all materials and resources are reserved for their highest and best use, and landfills are the last resort. Our motto is waste nothing. NRC formed in March of 2017 of a merger between the Nebraska State Recycling Association and WasteCap Nebraska. The State Recycling Association was formed in 1980 to support recycling center operations, and WasteCap was formed in 1992 as an association of Lincoln businesses that wanted better access to recycling and later became a statewide organization. Between the two organizations, we have a long history of advocating for policies that strengthen the recycling system and helping communities and businesses with their own recycling programs. We do that by providing materials, management, technical assistance, education, resources, and networking opportunities for businesses, municipalities, schools, institutions, and individuals. We also administer a grant program for recycling equipment, and last year awarded $193,000 in funds to 15 grants throughout the state. Education and information sharing is at the heart of Nebraska Recycling Council's programs. We collaborate with all our partners to stay abreast of best practices, tools, and policy innovations.
Okay, wow, that is quite a bit. You're the executive director. So I have to ask, Heather, how did you become involved in the council?
I have been with the council since 2014. I originally started as a Waste Cap Nebraska employee. And when our executive director of NRC retired, I applied for her position and graciously got it.
How did you become so interested in recycling? I mean, this is your life now. Can you think back to a time when you thought, oh, that's really what I want to do?
It's always been a passion of mine, leaving the environment and after I had children in a better condition than what it is, and continuing to make those things better for the next generation.
Yeah, and as a leader in an organization like that, I have to ask, how did you fare through this past year with COVID?
We had to pivot and we went to more Zoom meetings and online. We had to cancel most of our events that would have been in person, and all of us are working remotely from home. So fortunately, we were still able to do our annual fall conference. We just had to do it virtually.
Okay. All right. You mentioned earlier your slogan is waste nothing. Very ambitious, but I like it. For folks watching at home who maybe aren't doing a lot of recycling but are becoming more and more interested in it, where does somebody start, Heather, when it comes to recycling?
So getting started with recycling and composting is really not that difficult. And you can do it at home, at work, or on the go. You just have to be sure to learn what your program or center accepts to make sure you are recycling right and not wish cycling.
Okay.
As individuals, we can all start by simply reframing how we think about the products we consume and the packaging they come in as resources. The slogan plays on this concept that in an ideal system, nothing is wasted because waste doesn't exist. All materials have a place in a closed loop system to be repurposed, reused, recycled, or composted, and nothing is sent to the landfill. As an individual, we reduce what we need, reuse as much as possible, send little to be recycled, and compost everything else that we can. If packaging or a product we want to purchase can't fit into that loop, we consider other alternatives. The responsibility of creating an entire system of wasting nothing isn't only on us as individuals. It includes redesigning the entire system of how we extract, design, produce, distribute, use, and manage resources. We need robust recovery infrastructures, strong local economies, and policies that protect our natural resources and support sustainable material use. Zero waste or waste nothing principles are lofty, ambitious goals, but our current system for resource use is unsustainable. Any progress and changes we make that get us away from our linear production, consumption, disposal model has a positive impact on our health, economy, and the environment.
Awesome. That establishes such a great need for people to want to move forward with this. Now let's bring this to a very practical level, thinking of somebody's house, right, and the items that they're using on a pretty regular basis. So I'm wanting to get started. I've got my bins all set up. How would you suggest to somebody, whether you're doing a presentation or what have you, just in terms of those one or two or three things that you could really snatch or grab onto to get going with the recycling?
Aluminum, your paper, those things, your plastics, especially your ones and twos, those things is a great place to start.
Okay. And I'm thinking that when, especially after having talked with Danielle, that this can kind of get confusing. People think that they're putting the right thing in the right bin, but maybe they didn't empty it out. They're putting food in with things. Where does this get the most confusing, Heather, when you're talking with folks?
I think it gets most confusing just because it's not universal. So depending on if you're taking it to a drop-off site or if you're doing single stream on your curbside, there could be different items that are not accepted or different ways that you have to process them.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier that you do work with other organizations, which is fantastic. With whom do you work to get the right information out to folks and in a timely fashion?
We have a stellar network spread through Nebraska in our board of directors, our advisory council, our measurement task force, our recycling equipment grant review committee, our compost committee as the seat of the U.S. Compost Council, and they are all from backgrounds, different backgrounds, public servants, city administrators, haulers, recyclers, composters, recycling center operators, nonprofit and community leaders that help guide the organization and communicate the need for recycling and resource management in all parts of the state. So really, we have a statewide network that we work with.
Heather, one of the questions I've been asking folks with COVID is this whole notion of collaboration. And for many, that's been strengthened because of the pandemic. What have you found with the Nebraska Recycling Council?
I think that it has made the reach a little bit farther and a little bit easier because we are not doing the in-person. It's been a little bit of a struggle, and there's some Zoom fatigue and trying to stay focused. But I think that there will be some good changes that come out of it for all organizations.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about kind of an exciting day for you guys there, April 22nd. Why is that such a big deal for the Nebraska Recycling Council?
April 22nd is Earth Day. And Earth Day marks the anniversary of the birth of the modern environmental movement that started in 1970. And today, Earth Day is widely recognized as the largest secular observance in the world, marked by more than 1 billion people every year as a day of action to change human behavior and create global, national, and local policy changes. The fight for a clean environment continues in 2021, and Nebraska Recycling Council is making sustainable spring cleaning easier by hosting its annual Recycling Day event on April 24th, from 9 a.m. to noon at Nebraska Innovation Campus in Lincoln. NRC's CHARM event, which stands for a collection for hard to recycle materials, is a one-stop collection event to recycle old electronics, batteries, scrap metal, EPS foam coolers and packaging, secure documents for shredding, textiles, and to donate reusable housewares and clothing. If you're in the Lincoln area, more information about this opportunity is on our website. And celebrations are going on all month long across the state of Nebraska. And we encourage everyone to celebrate the planet's environment and raise public awareness throughout the month of April and beyond.
Heather, if our viewers could do one thing in the month of April, especially on April 22nd, if we did one thing above and beyond what we're already doing, what would it be your hope that we do?
I would hope that you would look at what you are using and find a way to reduce some of that consumption.
Okay, that's good advice. Finally now, in just the few minutes that we have remaining, We're hoping that if all goes according to plan, that folks may be able to start gathering safely in the month of July. That's the hope, which would be, the 4th of July would be among those days, obviously. Talk to us about how to have a recycle-friendly event. What things could we be doing maybe a little differently for an event like the 4th of July?
For smaller family gatherings, think of the zero waste hierarchy, and you'll want to know where you can eliminate waste before anything. And some ideas would be to get rid of the disposable partyware. Can you have reusable plates, cups, and silverware that guests put in a tub to be washed up afterwards? Can you ask them to bring their own beverage containers or their own cutlery? Save and reuse your decorations and yard games. What yard games and decorations are sturdier that can be used year after year? And if reusable is not an option, be sure to put out clearly marked recycling containers at your gathering for your guests. Provide materials that are compostable in your backyard or with a compost club. Be sure to see if paper plates are truly compostable with no plastic lining. And remember that plastic forks and paper napkins, though made of material that people associate with recyclables, are not to go in your household recycle bin. Paper napkins are too flimsy to go through the recycling process and often get wet and dirty in your bin. And compost the napkins, place non-recyclable plastic in the trash or in a hefty orange energy bag if your municipality supports it. And when in doubt, throw it out.
Okay, sounds good. Heather Creven, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Of course, Daniel Eastdale joining us earlier. We're talking about recycling in Nebraska. For more information, people can go to the Nebraska Recycling Council, 402-436-2384, and there is their website. As we close, a look at scenes from Elmwood Park as seen through the lens of Faith Perrone, a junior at UNO. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at netnebraska.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call UNO Television at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.
Coneglia Field, the home facility for the Omaha soccer programs since 2012. The stadium features 3,000 seats. In the summer of 2019, Coneglia Field was named one of the top 11 places in the nation to experience college soccer from an NCAA poll. Coneglia Field also features one of the largest LED video boards in a soccer-only college facility.
For more than 20 years, only one program has addressed topics that matter to viewers. Only one program delivers the information that Nebraskans need to live the good life. I'm Kathy Wyatt. Join my guests and me as we discuss those issues every week on a program we call Consider This.